swear to God, in that first month, like I was sold. I recommend Happy V to everyone, for moms who are about to hit motherhood for their first time, or if they're postpartum, because I don't feel like a lot of people understand how important it is for your body.
Hear about maybe the not so positive parts of your health journey and maybe any struggles that you've had in the past in general around vaginal health, and what kind of got you to the point where you're like, okay, I gotta look for solutions.
Okay, so about 9 years ago, I almost died postpartum from having severe surgical sepsis. And it was a really hard journey for me with how many antibiotics I had after the fact. As we know, it's super easy to kill all of your good bacteria when you are on almost 2 months of antibiotics. It was a really hard readjustment journey for me. And then I wound up having horrible periods, horrible yeast infections, which I had never had any of that stuff before. And my doctor had suggested that I get an ablation. And do you know what an ablation is?
Go ahead and share.
They burn your lining so that you don't bleed as much anymore. And
inside your vaginal flora area.
Yep.
Okay.
And the cervix, and it helps with the massive bleeding and all of the issues. But the problem I had after that was I was more prone to imbalances because my body wasn't shedding anything anymore. I was more prone to yeast infections. I was more prone to BV. And that's what started my journey of finding a good probiotic. I was on a bunch of prescription type of probiotics, and it never felt like it did what I was paying for. And I kept thinking there has to be something more than just spending $100 a month on pre and probiotics that aren't working for me. So I'm a super functional, crunchy person when it comes to what I put in my body. And I started researching a lot, and I came across Happy V. I think it was about a year before COVID. And because I've had a subscription for almost 4 years, if not longer now at this point. And I started taking it pretty regularly, and I noticed a really big difference because my old pre and probiotic, I was having to cycle on and off. And that was really hard because the moment I would cycle off, I would constantly be having BV problems. I would feel like something wasn't right, which is such a frustrating thing because no one wants to deal with that. And I had never dealt with any of these problems until I had my first baby. Gave it 3 months because I feel like nothing really adjusts to your body within the first month. And in the first month, I noticed such a big difference. I was like, screw the prescription meds that I'm on, screw everything else, because this is actually making me feel better. And not everyone is in a cookie cutter field of like how their body reacts to things. And it was my first pre and probiotic that I didn't have to put in the fridge, which was super interesting. It didn't make me incredibly nauseous, which was very helpful. And I've literally been on it ever since.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing all of that. I think before we dive into talking about just Happy V and all of that, you've had quite the journey after pregnancy and all of that. I'd love to hear just how that season was, and you found support and your doctors, and just what was that time like for you?
I felt like I was your typical young and dumb first time parent where I got pregnant. I did everything to the book of what my doctor said. And then I had such severe complications because I got induced so early. And then I wound up having a C-section, and then wound up being back in the hospital for a week postpartum. And then coming back with a very hard postpartum recovery where I was 6 months in like partial bed rest. I had a super colicky baby. And that was a hard transition of relearning like what my body needed and how I needed to support myself, especially because I grew up with a very headstrong, independent mom where she did everything and anything. And I was like, why am I struggling so hard right now? And then I wound up going with my second baby because I wasn't supposed to ever get pregnant again, with a midwife, a doula, and I had a whole birth team that was super functional. And that transition for me was absolutely life-changing in how I viewed self-care, mental health, and all of the mental health awareness during pregnancy and postpartum. So that made my transition into being a second-time mom way easier than my first time, because there's such a stigma being a new parent that comes the second baby, you're like, this is not working for me.
You're like, hey.
And I learned a lot more about women's health with my midwife and doula team versus what any doctor could have provided me with my baby.
Yeah. Wow. And did they walk you through maybe things to do around vaginal health as well?
Yeah. So I also started implementing like kombucha and with my normal routine. And then also I actually made it a whole 24 years without knowing you're not supposed to use anything scented at all down there. And I was like, why didn't anyone tell me this? But I didn't have any problems back before I had babies. So it wasn't like a really big thing. And even now I see like things come up for vaginal health and they're scented. And I'm like, no, don't buy those. You are going to absolutely screw your body up.
I'd love to just know your insight a little bit about just support and what you're talking about, like awareness around women's health, giving birth, vaginal health. What are your thoughts about people not knowing maybe some of the basic stuff that women should know about their health and their bodies?
That's a good question. I feel like the more we get into social media and the more resources there are, it's way easier than how it was for myself 10 years ago having a first baby. But I do think that normalizing talking about vaginal health is really important because there's such a stigma around vaginal health, sex, anything of that capacity where it's like, it's a learning process of you either figure it out or you don't. And it's so important to listen to your body because I can tell you, I have gone through countless doctors after my sepsis issues where they would say, no, you just need this medicine. No, you need this. And I was like, there is no way that is going to fix something without throwing something else out of alignment. My body knows exactly how to function in the way it needs to. And we just need to get it to the optimal health aspect of it.
How was those few months? I know you said you were just taking even prescription probiotics and antibiotics back to back. Like, I'm sure your body was telling you maybe no, but you're like, I don't know what else to do. What was that like?
So I didn't exactly have a choice. My sepsis had me to the point where I was almost on with complete liver and thyroid failure. I had 4 internal infections in my uterus. And essentially they had me on 3 rotating bags of antibiotics every 2 hours. And then I went home with a full month's worth of antibiotics. And then I wound up getting a pretty nasty yeast infection after because I didn't know probiotics were a necessity at the time either.
And I'm guessing they didn't, with taking all the antibiotics, they didn't tell you that, right?
Nope, they didn't say anything. They just said, oh, looks like we'll get you on some yeast meds, and then you'll probably need another round of antibiotics just in case to kill off whatever extra bacteria. And I had absolutely no idea what good and bad bacteria was, and that everything I was on was killing everything because I was on the strongest possible types of antibiotics.
Sure. Yeah. And I think maybe to the common person, like you hear bacteria and you think, oh, it's bad, I have to get rid of it. But you actually need that. If you don't mind sharing, like, what were your, I don't know, thoughts and emotions like during that time? I'm sure it felt really maybe hopeless or didn't know who to go to during that time, right?
I actually felt super chaotic because I am a very firm person in knowing my body and knowing something's not right. And I felt like everyone was like, you're fine, nothing's wrong. And so that was a really hard thing for me. If you would have asked me back then, I would have told you that anything oil-based was crazy. And I started using essential oils for certain things to help like heal parts of my body that weren't working in conventional medicine. And that was my journey into the functional side of a lot of things and just really getting down to the core of what is good for your body and how to treat it. And it's important to listen to it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. So share a little bit more maybe when you're like, okay, this isn't working, I'm trying this. Were you researching different probiotics? How did you hear about maybe probiotics in general besides the subscription or prescription ones that they were giving you? And how did you hear about Happy V?
In regards to research, when I first was learning about everything, I was a little lackluster. And I was like, okay, if it's prescription probiotics and it's supposed to be all natural, I can't really complain and question it. And then the price point of prescription ones are very high. And our phones hear everything we say. So I feel like I started getting targeted ads for it. And at the time I was on I believe it was like one of the very first mom influencers that I followed about, a decade ago, where she started like really talking about functional health because she was having her 5th or 6th baby. And Happy V came up, and then I kept seeing ads for it. And I was like, okay, maybe the universe is telling me something, because I wasn't really looking at any other probiotics. And then I started researching that that a lot of probiotics needed prebiotics attached with it. And I had no idea about that.
Right.
And same with digestive enzymes and how that helps also absorb the pre and probiotics better. Where when I started researching, like, sometimes the ones that go in the fridge, like, they lose their potency really quickly, and it might not actually hit your gut before it dissolves, so to speak. I really started going down the line of understanding what type of pre and probiotics I need. And also, it doesn't matter if there's 10 billion in a pre and probiotic, it might not be necessarily targeted towards women's health. And I loved that Happy V was targeted specifically towards women's health.
Yeah, that's awesome. Cool. So yeah, the power of social media and hearing you talk in ads is how you heard about Happy V. Yes, that's so great. And you said you've been on it for what, you think 3-4 years already?
At least I feel like 4 years.
Yeah. What does your daily routine of taking Happy V look like for you?
So I typically take it at night just because I forget so much in the morning when I wake up.
Yeah.
But I started doing the digestive enzymes around noon, and then I do the pre and probiotics at my normal bedtime routine. And then I also do the liquid chlorophyll at the same time.
Okay, that's awesome. That's great. How do you like the other products, or how have they made an impact on you as well, besides the pre and probiotic?
Even in the time frame that I've taken the pre and probiotics, I'm very prone with my flora to get BV. And it happens literally if I change my diet, even at times.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like since taking the digestive enzymes and the liquid chlorophyll, I've reduced that already by 60 to 70% of how many reoccurring issues that I have. And I say that like in the most minuscule way, because I only get like maybe 1 or 2 flare-ups a year now, which is very okay for my body and how much it's gone through. But I was getting BV every single month, and like prescription antibiotics were not clearing it out.
Yeah.
And I feel like having the digestive enzymes, the chlorophyll, and the pre and probiotic give me so much peace of mind of, 1, not smelling at all, and 2, just overall knowing that my system is cleansing itself out in the way that I'm treating it.
Yeah, that's awesome. So even what you just mentioned, like going from getting BV, probably, was it like every month, every couple of months?
It was such a weird experience after having the ablation. I was like, what is happening?
Since taking Happy V, you said like once or twice a year, even if something else, is
most. And that's like, yeah.
Okay, so like that's a big night and day.
Yeah.
Right?
I don't have uric acid anymore at first.
You don't?
You know?
Yeah. So how has that felt just in general, from going from this whole new area of health and issues to like something that you don't have to worry about anymore?
It's been really nice, because I feel like for myself, when I hyper focus on something, it takes a lot of joy away from my day-to-day life. And I don't really feel like I typically have to worry about anything that's going on downstairs unless I'm willingly trying a new product and it might not work for me.
Yeah, no, that's great. Do you do anything else in your wellness routine that you think has really helped with just overall health, but even specifically to vaginal health?
So I eat pretty well for the most part, minus when I go out to eat, and then I'm like, this is my time. But I try to keep a clean diet. I try to make sure I'm working out efficiently. Sauna definitely helps, purge my toxins. But I'm also really good about hydrating. And I feel like we live in a culture where caffeine is more important than water. So making sure just everything hits, all my greens, constantly taking my normal supplements for bedtime routine is really important for my health journey. And it can feel and be like a lot, but I know that I'm doing the best for my body, especially because they gave me about a 10-year time frame of how long it would take my body to learn how to heal itself internally from all of my complications.
And it's been shorter than that.
Yeah, it's been 9. So we're getting there. And I definitely feel a little more regulated and normal, but in the process of that timeline, I've had multiple surgeries to help clear out scar tissue. I've had my tubes removed, the ablation, just a whole bunch of stuff to make sure that I'm functioning without severe hormone drops.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. So yeah, and Happy V, has it just been this marker for you to know, hey, taking this new product, like this product is maybe what has helped me?
For sure. Like I said, like what is it? Your nail technician, if they do something wrong once, you leave the thing, right? Like I will give a supplement or a product 3 months because I feel like that's enough time for consistency for your body to adapt to it. And I swear to God, in that first month, like I was sold. And I recommend Happy V to everyone I know.
Yeah.
Especially for moms who are about to hit motherhood for their first time, or if they're postpartum, because I don't feel like a lot of people understand how important it is for your body.
Yeah.
I know many people who don't take probiotics, and I'm like, but why?
Yeah, no, that's awesome. How do you imagine or plan to have Happy V kind of be a part of your long-term wellness routine and just plan for your life?
So I feel like I already use you guys as a long-term routine. So
It's been 4 years, yeah.
Right. I'm like, I just plan on keep trekking along with it. And I really do love that in the last year with the digestive enzymes, how much I feel like that has also elevated it for me. And I do truly feel like once you find a good product that works for you, you got to stick with it.
Mm-hmm. That's great. How do you think Happy V impacted your confidence or self-esteem along the way as well?
I love not smelling. I feel like the older I get, the more sensitive my nose is to smells as well. And I go to a lot of music festivals, and I have really truly noticed how clean I smell compared to a lot of people. And I don't want to shame anyone, but I just don't feel like a lot of people understand like women's health is a really big thing. And the confidence knowing that I'm taking care of my body just automatically makes me feel so much better. And it's not to shame anyone at all, but for me, that aspect is I never feel like I have to worry.
Like, is that me, or I don't know?
Yeah,
and that's awesome. And I'm sure maybe you can attest to this, like it's for sure the pre-probiotic, but the liquid chlorophyll is known as that internal deodorant. So have you seen a difference with smell, especially with that product?
Yeah, and I don't sweat a lot, but sometimes I've noticed since I've started taking the liquid chlorophyll, if I forget to put deodorant on or anything, like I don't smell throughout the day. So I think that also attributes to a lot of it.
Yeah, that's a huge win. That's awesome. So if you could come into the lab with Happy V and create a product, is there a product in mind that would be something that you would want or look for or buy?
I would love it if you guys came out with a greens.
Okay, like a green powder.
Because I don't know what it is, but I'm like anything specific to women's health, I feel is just so much better. But having a greens, in my opinion, would be super awesome. That is targeted towards women's health too. That possibly, I don't know how it would work, but if that's even a thing or if it's just universal for everyone. But I do love the idea of having a one-stop shop for myself, and greens is like the one thing that I have to outsource for a lot.
Yes. No, I love that. Yeah. If you can just get everything, make it more simple.
Right?
No, that's awesome. I'll for sure let our team know. Yeah, that's great. I'm with you on that. That's awesome. So last question I'd love to ask you is if you could go back and tell Krista right after having your first child and you were going through everything that you were, or even other women out there that are struggling, maybe you have a similar story to you, just some encouragement, some big sister encouragement, what would you like to say?
Just to listen to your body, and that you are the last person who's going to be wrong about it. And if you feel like something is not working for yourself or doesn't exactly fit the mold of being a woman, own your true identity and understand that things happen for a reason, and you just learn to grow from them and to just give yourself grace, because it is very hard the older you get as an adult to not try and fit in a mold with people, but also not just fully form around the conventional side of medicine and things as a woman, because I feel like we are more natural than that in a lot of ways.
Yeah. No, I no, it's beautiful. I love what you said. Like, you're gonna be the last one to be wrong, and just following that gut feeling or intuition of, I know this isn't right, or I'm in my body's telling me that, to listen to that voice or that thing is really powerful. It's a great reminder.
And a big thing like for that is I learned that during my 4th ER trip to the hospital, because I went 4 times telling them there was something wrong postpartum. I was like, something's not right. My fevers are horrible. My stomach was completely black, and they were like, you're fine, you're postpartum. 4 times to the ER. And then they finally called me in and they were like, you have about a few hours to get here before you're dead, pretty much. And I was like, I was never wrong.